All right. I apologize for that. I am going to go back now to what I just said. So since the beginning of really early recorded history, even long before the use of language, spirits have been a part of human existence. People created images, paintings, wall carvings like this one. And then they used written language later on to describe their interactions with what we typically call the unseen or spirits. Written means of communication from millennia ago demonstrate clearly for us that our very, very old, ancient human ancestors were very aware of the presence of spirits and were in an ongoing dialogue with them through words, through images, songs, dances, any means of expression that they could possibly use, they used in order to communicate with spirits. And they mimicked these disembodied beings in many ways, including the ways in which they led their human lives in a body. And they wrote and they drew about the mystery of it all. They took heed, actually, of the presence of these spirit beings and looked to them for guidance and information and clarity and information that impacted their decisions and, in some cases, their ability to survive in a body on Earth. They were really very, very dependent on the advice from spirits in ways that many of us humans don't even think about because we have the internet and Google. They communicated oftentimes with local fortune tellers, especially the kings, the queens, and the aristocrats. And they relied deeply on the guidance of these fortune tellers. And the degree to which they trusted the information was, in some ways, how well they related to the fortune teller and how well they trusted the information coming from the fortune teller. And, you know, some of you, I'm sure, have read, like myself, that fortune tellers' lives were sometimes at stake if they gave really bad information to a king or a queen or some other aristocrat in power. They may actually lose their life as a result of having given faulty information. So that we're glad that practice is pretty much no longer in effect for those of us who are shamanic practitioners in the world. I'm talking here about ancient peoples, you know, who used fortune tellers and other mediums and such, and they were not really typically. I'm not talking here about our indigenous ancestors of, you know, North and South America and other, you know, the islands of the Pacific and Siberia and so on. I'm really talking more about the indigenous peoples from what we would typically today call Eurasia, you know, the Romans, the Spanish, the Portuguese, the French, the English, and so on, and those who lived along the rivers and the oceans. And they had, you know, they had their own ways that were somewhat unique from what our indigenous ancestors believed, but nonetheless, their belief was very strong in the presence of spirits. We know our indigenous ancestors, their whole lives were about relating to the spirit of nature and the wind and the rain and all of that. However, you know, we don't often think about our Eurasian ancestors as also having really, really strong connections to spirit, and so they did. And so these same spirits that they were communicating with, they're with us still today. Our experience and our understanding of their presence, you know, has advanced quite a bit, but nothing else has really changed about the fact that we live in a space and in a place that is heavily occupied by spirits in human, animal, and other forms. And so now, you know, how do we, as advanced and supposedly intelligent human beings, communicate and incorporate these spirits in our lives? The truth is, in fact, there is a nation with spirits that has survived for hundreds and hundreds of years beyond the Inquisition, the rise of Christianity in the Western Hemisphere, and in Christianity, the tendency to demonize spirits other than Jesus, the Virgin Mary, and Joseph, and, of course, the Holy Spirit. And then, of course, there were angels. But the truth is that whether you grow up in a Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, or other organized religious context, there are still prohibitions to communicating with spirits other than those who have been approved by the religious leaders of that faith tradition. It's a curiosity, isn't it? There are so many spirits amongst us, but yet there is still this need on the part of certain religious structures to control what spirits are okay to talk with and what spirits are not. So despite that prohibition, however, the sense of walking on the wild side, humans have for centuries delved into the occult, the mystery, the magic, and they've looked to the spirits of the unseen for guidance, healing, and in some cases amusement or entertainment. Why is that? Before we go there, I'd like to mention something I bet many of you have done in your lifetime, particularly maybe in your younger years, depending on your age. Did you ever play with a Ouija board? Did you ever hide in a closet and make yourself invisible to the human eye, but still at the same time knowing full well that you could be seen by others? Did you ever have your palm read at a fair? Or consult with an animatronic Zoltar fortune teller? Remember those machines? I remember distinctly, despite being brought up in a very strict Catholic home and going to a Catholic nun school, going to Old Orchard Beach here in Maine and visiting a Zoltar at the arcade every darn year. The whole family went. We did other things when we were there, of course, but the Zoltar visit was always a prerequisite. We put our penny, it was a penny at that time, we put our penny into the machine, and we waited for this animatronic creature to dispense a typewritten fortune while its jaws moved as if it was speaking the words that were typewritten on the little piece of paper that was spit out of the machine. We were technically heretics. We were doing something that was really frowned upon by the Catholic Church, but no one cared. It was for amusement. Or was it really? We laughed at it, but we know now as adults that many of us, including myself, secretly hid the fortune away in our jewelry box or a diary, or one of my brothers put it in the cracks between the walls. And there it was, after all, the possibility that there was truth in this message. And we clung to that, even though it was seriously frowned upon by the religious leaders that were in our lives. And so it is true in the here and now, in this 21st century, many people still consult with fortune tellers, palm readers, psychics, mediums, and others to gather information from the spirits about their future. The location of their deceased loved ones is also something they inquire a lot about, what job they should take, whether to get divorced or not, and so on. Many, many questions. And yet, there is still a fear about the presence of spirits in people's lives, which is a curiosity, because people go by the thousands and thousands to fortune tellers, psychics, and mediums for information from spirits. So this is what I hope to demystify for you a bit in this presentation. Who are those spirits around you? And do you have reason, truly, do you have reason to be fearful? So I'm speaking from a shamanic perspective, because that's who I am. That's my belief system. That's my practice. And so there are certainly other belief systems, but this is my truth. We know from a shamanic perspective that the vast majority of spirits who are hanging around here in our world, on and around planet Earth, are truly benevolent beings. They are here as angels or spirit helpers or visitors, or they're here because they're doing good works and creating miracles around us. But who are they really, and why are they here? Why not just be in another realm, far away, like what many of us have called heaven? These benevolent spirits are around us because it is their purpose, really their destiny or their job, to be here on Earth, around and among us, in order to truly be the guardians of our lives. They are what we call in shamanic terms guardian angels or helping spirits. And whether we intentionally communicate with them or not, they are indeed here. You have, many of you, I'm sure, heard stories about people who were warned away from an event only to find that tragedy ensued at that locale. That person got a message or a warning not to attend. They don't understand from where the message came, but it was there and it was real. Or how about the stories of people who felt an angel or a spirit pulled them back onto the curb, avoiding the inevitable of being struck by a car? Or felt being pushed away from an oncoming vehicle? We have all read or heard of these stories, every one of us has, and some of us have experienced these kinds of events. So going back to talking about the practice of shamanism, what we do is we develop personal relationships with those spirits among us. And we learn how to trust and know the specific spirits who are our personal guides or helpers. We foster our connection with this spirit or group of spirits because we experience and we know that they are benevolent. And they're here to protect us, advise us, empower us in our lives here on Earth. Our inquisitive nature is curious about whether these spirits actually are here all the time or whether they travel around and show up only when we are in trouble or when we need their presence. As a shamanic practitioner, I can say that my experience is that my trusted spirit allies, or spirit helpers as we call them, are here with me all the time, 24/7. They're my partners here on Earth. They will likely escort me to another realm when my spirit leaves my body at death, and I trust that wholeheartedly. I will greet them with open arms. Whether their constant presence is invoked by my continuous connection with them or whether they would be here without ongoing and trusting two-way communications, I really don't know. But I do know that they are here. They're always here. I call on them, they're here. I talk with them incessantly during the course of the day. So I want to move on now to help you, hopefully, understand a little bit more about the different kinds of spirits that are amongst us. I've just been talking about helping spirits, benevolent spirits, those that we are in constant communication with as shamanic practitioners. But there are numerous classifications of spirits. And depending upon your spiritual or religious beliefs, you may have different experiences or understandings. I'm speaking about my experience as a shamanic practitioner and also from my own personal experience as well as that of millions of ancestors, current colleagues, and teachers who have written and spoken about their familiarity with the presence of many and varied kinds of spirits. We have to begin by understanding that unlike life in a body, there is nothing linear about spirits. We can attempt to classify them, but truly our attempts at classification are really an attempt to place the ineffable into our own descriptions. We do this because we need to understand the indescribable. And so from there, I do want to say that in earth-based spiritual experiences, we can break down our understanding into these basic categories. Again, remembering that we are merely attempting to describe our experience of the indescribable. There are a variety of different kinds of spirits, and I'm going to name a few. There are archangels, ascended masters, spirit helpers from the upper world, our animals from the lower world, benevolent spirits who reside in the middle world, disincarnate humans who also reside in the middle world and are earthbound, and spirits of fallen angels, or what we call demons and troublemakers. So I'm going to begin by helping, I hope, for you to understand a little bit more about each of these categories, as they are, of the kinds of spirits who are around us. And I'm going to begin at the bottom, the absolute lowest vibration of spirits we might experience in our lifetime. And those are the spirits of fallen angels or demonic energies. Those are spirits that are resulting from the dark side of life on earth. We create and have waged wars. There are murders. People's heads get hacked off. There's terrorism all over the globe. Humans are abused and damaged by other humans. And we create indescribable, dark energy around us because of the language that we use and the actions that we undertake. We have been at war since the beginning of recorded history. There have been so many outrageously demonic actions on the part of living humans that it should come as no surprise that there would be spirits amongst us who we would name as demons or poltergeists or troublemakers or things of that nature. Because people do these things when they are alive, and then they die, and their spirits are potentially still around here on earth. They were the living demons when they were alive, and they are still demons in their death. We do not want them around us when they are alive, and the same is true for when their spirit leaves their body. How can they impact us, and what do we do to get rid of them? First, I must say that the absolute best way to avoid ever having these spirit energies around you is to do one or more of these things. Surround yourself with light and with your own benevolent helping spirits. Stay connected with them all the time. Pay attention who you're interacting with. Do not hang around in bars and places where there may be violence or disrespect for human life. Not that all bars are necessarily dark, but there are, as we know, many places where there is a lot of dark energy, and you need to pay attention to your own radar. If you walk into a place and it doesn't feel right, get the heck out, because it's a signal to you that there is not good energy there. Pay attention to the people that you're interacting with. Spend as much time as possible surrounded by nature and nature spirits. That is probably one of the most important things you can do, because the spirits of nature, they want to give to us. If we open our hearts to them and we relate to them and we communicate with them, they are here and they are amongst us and they want to be with us and protect us and guide us. So the more time you spend in nature, the less time you're likely to have the possibility of interacting with demonic or dark energy, because they don't like being in those places. It's filled with light, and they don't like light. So when you fill yourself with light or you spend time where there is light, your chances of being in any way interacting with dark energies is reduced tremendously. And as I said a minute ago, pay attention to your gut instinct. If you're someplace where your radar is saying, this place does not feel safe, then get the heck out. And if you've been violated spiritually, energetically, or physically, seek help from a healer who's trained in extractions or depossessions or things of that nature, because when we are violated as human beings in some of these ways, it is possible for us to have really dark energies attached to us, and it's important to get rid of them as soon as we possibly can, because they will interfere with our lives. So there's a lot more that could be said about these low vibration and harmful energies, but I don't want to dwell on this in order to attract them or their powers to me or to us. Remember this truth: you attract what you pay attention to. Do not dwell on these energies so that they are not attracted to you. Surround yourself with light and stay connected with your angels, your helping spirits, and your power animals, and invoke their protection regularly. So the next lower vibration spirits, the next one up the ladder, are the discarnate humans who died under traumatic circumstances and who are literally stuck here on this plane of existence. We call them, in general, middle world spirits, but there are many, many middle world spirits, not just the discarnate humans who have passed away. Their spirits, these discarnate humans, didn't get to go to the light because they died in some tragic circumstance. They often don't know that they're dead, and so they're here and they're reliving their trauma, and they may be obsessed about their trauma and obsessed with staying stuck in a particular place. They're usually not harmful, but they can create disturbing energies if you're around them a lot. There are places on Earth where there are many, many discarnate spirits who have not been psychopomped or helped by a shamanic practitioner or a shaman to move on into the light. The psychopomp is a Greek word that comes from leader of souls, and it's a ceremony that shamans and shamanic practitioners do to help souls pass on into the light. And so, there are places where there are a lot of those kinds of souls, like, for instance, sites where there were huge actions of the Civil War here in America. The millions of souls from other wars raged around the world throughout human history. And then, of course, all the places where there were Nazi concentration camps and places of that nature, filled with souls who are still potentially stuck there. Those of us who are deeply in the practice of shamanism visit places of this nature regularly in groups and help move as many of those souls as we can into the light, because it helps them. It also helps the earthly plane to be free of the suffering that they are experiencing in spirit. And as we do that, we create a higher vibration on the earth, because their energy, which is stuck and is a slightly lower vibration, impacts all of us. It impacts the earth. It impacts all beings. And so as we move them into a place of light and help them pass into a place where their soul can be at rest and in turn begin to evolve, then we are freeing them, but we are also freeing the earth. So these middle world spirits, they're stuck here. They're generally not at all harmful, like I said, but sometimes they are experienced by us as ghosts or spirits who are in our home or on our land. They don't know they're dead. They don't know they are disturbing your sleep or other areas of your life. They are merely attempting to communicate with you. There are ceremonies you can perform to help them move on, and I can't go into describing all of those possible ceremonies here in this webinar, but I suggest you consult with a shamanic practitioner if you need help with this. If you feel like there's a ghost in your home or spirits on your land, and they're not necessarily disturbing, but you don't really feel comfortable with them there, then you might want to explore this and seek some help, somebody who might be able to help these spirits move on, if in fact they're stuck here. Sometimes we have spirits on our land who are not stuck here. They're here because they're adding their amazing vibration to the land or to our home, and they're friendly and they're wonderful, and they're not meant to be moved on. but you wouldn't necessarily know that unless you studied shamanism or were able to discern which is which. And then also, here in the middle world are the nature spirits that I talked about earlier, the ones that you do want to connect with. They're actually the spirit aspects of all living beings on Earth. The trees, the flora, the fauna, the butterflies, the elementals, the fairies, the divas, the weather spirits, and on and on and on. Any living being on Earth has a spirit. And they are highly benevolent. And the more we connect with them intentionally, honor them and sit with them, invite them into our hearts and lives, the more they empower us. They clear us of negative energies, and they protect us from the darker, lower vibrations that are disturbing and potentially harmful. So these are the spirits among us who you truly, truly want to embrace, dance with, celebrate with, honor, create ceremony with, talk with, walk with. The more you do this, the more empowered you become, and the less likely you are to be impacted by the lower vibration souls who are potentially harmful. So we're going to go up one more rung on the ladder. Now we're going to talk about power animals. These are the spirits of animals. Also insects, fish, birds, and sometimes mythological creatures who live among us and who are often specifically assigned to us for a lifetime or sometimes for a shorter period of time, depending upon their powers and our need for their specific powers. But everyone has a power animal, at least one. And they're around you whether you recognize them or not. They are there, perhaps as quiet sentinels or as inspired and power-filled helping spirits. Those of us who work with our power animals, like myself, and honor them, communicate with them, ask them for help and guidance, and journey with them for the purpose of accessing power and healing for other people. We know the amazing and indescribable powers they bring to us and to this world in which we live. If you don't know who your power animal is, I want you to know for sure that they're waiting for you to recognize them and to work with them, to merge with them maybe even, to partner with them for your own health, for your well-being, and also for the well-being of the whole world and all of the living beings amongst us. I have several power animals with whom I'm strongly connected and I communicate with daily, and also who work with me to help clients. Some who are specifically aligned with me for performing soul retrieval ceremonies, others who do extraction of negative energies, and so on. So if you don't already know about a power animal who is with you, then I strongly recommend you find out who your power animal is and access some coaching from a trusted shamanic practitioner who can help you to align with your power animal's power and come to know, explore, and work with him or her. They are benevolent beings who are amongst us and who are waiting for us to connect. So then there are other spirits that we in shamanism call our upper world teachers. They're truly the helping spirits who are most often in more human-like form. They're humans who have been among us often here on Earth and who have died and ascended into the heavens or what we call the upper world. And they've evolved. Their spirits have evolved way beyond what they were capable of when they were here on Earth. And they're available to work with us as humans, to bring knowledge, to bring power, healing, energy, and from these realms, work through a living human partner such as yourself. I want to say that this is true, that, sometimes people think, an upper world teacher has to be of a certain age in order to have wisdom. The truth is an infant can be an upper world teacher because the infant's soul may be evolved far beyond what it would have been at age 6 months if it were in a body still here on Earth. So don't ever construct in your mind a belief that, there has to be some age at which that human died or some evolutionary truth about that human when they were here on Earth. They may have just been an ordinary person and who now has evolved into a realm outside of this reality, and their spirit has evolved far beyond our imagination. And so these helping spirits can appear to us sometimes what we see as form. But the truth is, spirits really don't have form, right? I mean, it's a spirit. It's pure energy. But we see them as form. And but there are many, many other ways that you might experience the spirit of a being that has ascended. And you see on this slide this amazing mandala here. And, sometimes we are communicating with a spirit and it appears to us as some amazing light being, maybe a mandala, maybe a mandola, maybe a, pure light, maybe a shooting star. And it's a spirit that is communicating with us. And so it's important for us to pay attention to understanding that that there is really there's no need for form in the spirit world. We give the spirits form because of our limitations, because of our limited thinking mind. Carrie just flashed a little thing here that said this is actually a model, I think, from some quantum physics. I didn't quite get exactly what she was saying, but it is a gorgeous image, isn't it? So all of these beings, they're available to be with you, to partner with. And the more you open yourself to the possibility of partnering with spirits who are available here to be guardians, to be helpers, then the more rich your life and the way you work with spirits will be. And, they're really here to spend time with you and for you to develop a trusting relationship with them. I often suggest learning the shamanic journey process to do this and to continue your connection with these beings of light through a shamanic practice for your own spiritual purposes, or, for some people it is for the purpose of aiding others, animals, plants, the earth, and humans, or whatever. You don't have to, obviously, pursue a shamanic life, but what is really important is that you open yourself up to these benevolent spirits and not live in fear that the spirits who are who are around you are harmful in any way. Do the things that I suggested, which is, surround yourself in nature, surround yourself in light, dance, sing, pray, move, be in the light, and, those other darker energies are likely not going to be attracted to you. And then the last piece here is, the very high vibration of the ascended masters and archangels, who are, again, obviously benevolent beings, and they're present for us if we seek them out. They're generally relegated to the realms way beyond the earth, and they do not visit the earth very often. And unlike most of the other spirits, their lives are generally outside of this realm, and they don't come here very much on Earth. They're a lot more mysterious. There's a lot of speculation about who they are. There's really no clarity, of course, about that. A lot of people believe that the ascended masters and the archangels and other benevolent beings of that power and energy never actually lived here on Earth, but have always been in spirit form. And then there are many others of us who believe that they are ascended in a way that, they've lived many, many lifetimes on Earth, and their spirit continued to evolve beyond our capacity to really even understand it. And now they are in this realm, outside of this reality, where they are phenomenally wise and have incredible vibrations available to us. And they will not return to the Earth once they have elevated to that status of archangel or ascended master. Some people call them, universal love energies. You can have so many different names for them. There's really, again, we're trying to put names onto beings that really are unnameable. So we're going to end here with a little bit of time for me to talk about what is coming next in other offerings. Carrie and I have been spinning a little web here about what we want to do in terms of future webinars, and we are going to create some more webinars. I will be writing some content for some future webinars, which will continue to be offered maybe once a month or something around that, maybe once every other month. It will depend on how much time I actually have. But we are going to start creating online courses, which has been a dream of mine for a couple of years. And we're going to do it very much in this kind of format where you can, log on and participate in a learning activity. And you don't necessarily have to be doing it live. In fact, most of you won't do it live. You will, you'll have access to a recording and a slideshow that you can watch. Some people prefer to just have the recording because they want to listen to it when they're driving or, on the subway or whatever. And other people prefer to have the slideshow. So we're going to offer it in both ways. We're going to have to charge a small amount of money for these classes, of course, because there's a lot of work that goes into preparing a presentation like this. It may seem fairly simple to the person who just logs in and watches, but there's hours and hours of work that goes into this to prepare. And so we will, have to charge money for the classes. But, our idea about the first downloadable, and they will be downloadable. So you'll go to my website, and Carrie is going to create an easy way for people to go to the website, download these online classes, and watch them on their computer or their iPhone or iPad. And the first series we're going to do is, as you see here on this slide, what is spiritual etiquette when you're working with spirits? How to protect yourself when you're journeying, which we've kind of touched on a little bit here, but we're going to go into greater detail about that. And then we're going to teach people how to journey to meet their power animal, and then how to work with your power animal once you have established who that is. And then journeying to meet your upper world teacher. And then, of course, how to work with that upper world teacher. So that's just, the first offering of Shamanism 101. And it will be broken down into many mini courses, probably more than the 6 we have named here. And you can do it at your own pace. You won't have to, be present anywhere. Some of you live very, very far away. You can't come to the classes that I teach here face-to-face. And this is an alternate way for you to learn. And even for those of you who are doing classes with me face-to-face, this is another way for you to renew what you know and to perhaps hear it again through a different means. And sometimes, the visual helps us to understand concepts better than just listening to words. And that's the beauty of doing online classes, is that you can do this slideshow, which helps with the imagery. And then, of course, you have slides like this which will have notes in them so that you don't have to be busy taking notes, and you can listen to the class over and over and over again as many times as you want to. So, I have 20 years of experience in shamanism. I have so much I can teach that the number of online downloadable classes that we could create in the next couple of years is probably, in the hundreds. I don't know that we will do hundreds, but we will have multiple offerings, and you can pick and choose what you want to do and do it for a reasonable cost. And I'm really, really excited about that because, in terms of face-to-face, there's some limitations to how many people I can reach. I can only have so many human beings in a class with me because of space and, because of the responsibility of following up with all of these people one-on-one. But this is kind of limitless. Hundreds of people can participate if they choose to, and it doesn't matter if they're living in Singapore or the Pacific Coast or South America or anywhere else. As long as they can understand and read English, then these classes will be available to them. So keep your eyes open. There will be a newsletter coming probably in October. The September newsletter is already written and will be coming soon. But in October, I would hope that Carrie and I will have some details about, when these classes will be coming and what the costs will be and so on. So if you don't already receive my newsletter, don't miss out. Go to the website, and there's an obvious place on the very home page where it says, let's get started. Click on that, and it will give you a place where you can register, and you'll be sure to always be on my mailing list. And so I want to end, I talked a lot about spirits here, but I do want to give you all a chance to ask questions. Spirit is always on my side, honest to God. I have no idea how much time went by, but I like the presentation to be 45 minutes. It's exactly 46 minutes. And so we have about 15 minutes for questions. And if you don't already know how to do this, there's a chat box up above here where that little bubble is, and you can just click on that and type your question, and I will be happy to answer as best I can any question you have. I'm going to give you a minute because I know you might have to think about questions, or it might take you a moment to type a question. Not as fast as speaking, of course. This is where the elevator music plays, but of course I don't have any elevator music. Okay. So the question is, how do I know, whoops, that just flashed across my screen and now I can't see it. Let me see if I can access it. How do I know what is a benevolent being and what is not? Can't demons or demonic energies pretend they are anything? Well, that is a great question. It is true that, dark energies can take on many forms, and they can pretend to be something that they're not. And so all the more reason to be always powered up and to be in the presence of ones that we know already are benevolent beings, and stay away from places and from people who we know might actually have some really bad juju, as I call it, around them. Don't go to places where there's a lot of violence. I personally don't hang out in big crowds. I don't like the energy of big crowds. I like to be able to discern who is around me and what the energy is. And, but anyway, it really all begins with having a strong spiritual practice beginning by knowing at step one, who are your helping spirits, knowing them so intimately that if some other being is pretending to be them, you will recognize that there is something not right. And then you ask a lot of questions, back away, and get help from somebody else because you may not be able to fix it yourself. So somebody is asking, what do I mean by being powered up? That's a really great question. So powered up in the shamanic world is, spending time drumming, dancing, rattling, being in a prayerful, deep meditation, getting clear, becoming what we call the hollow bone, getting our thinking mind out of the way. And each one of us does that perhaps in our own unique way. But typically in the practice of shamanism, we do a lot of dancing, drumming, rattling, singing. We come to know our power song. We sing our power song. And we feel infused with the spirit of one that we know is an ally, a benevolent ally. And in that knowing, we become powered up. So here's another question. You said archangels and ascended masters seldom visit the earth realms. Does this mean they are less available to help us? I was always told they were readily available to us and that all we have to do is ask, and they would be there. Well, it is true. They are everywhere, but they are not typically living among us in the same way, power animals and our upper world teachers and angels and such are. They are in another realm, but we can access that realm simply by setting our intention to connect with them. So if I, for instance, want to talk to the Archangel Gabriel, who many people know, I just set my intention to have a conversation with the Archangel Gabriel, and through that intention and through, and it's not an intention that comes from here, and it's an intention that comes from my heart, of wanting deeply to connect with Archangel Gabriel because I believe there is something Archangel Gabriel has for me, or I want to just connect and express gratitude for the work Archangel Gabriel does. Then I set my intention to do that, and I can then be connected with that spirit. But I go back to saying they truly, as I understand it, do not live here in this realm that we call the middle world. They live in another realm, and yet we can still have access to them anytime we choose. Okay, so another question. Something a psychic just told me that demons will lie, but when given a piece of paper and told to write their name, they have to write their real names. Not sure if you want to share that or not. Okay, so I just read. Not sure if you want to share that or not. That is a really good clue. I've never heard that before, but I think, there are lots of tricks that people have established over time working with demonic energies. I have to say that I'm truly not in any way an expert around that because I've made it a practice in my life to avoid, being in that energy or even studying that those dark energies in any deep way because I want to avoid it at all costs. So I think it's kind of amazing and possibly true that, one of the ways to discover whether one of your benevolent beings truly is or not is to invite them to, in some way, inscribe their name someplace and see if they truly are who they say they are. Curious. Any other questions? Well, Sarah, somebody says, thank you for your time and knowledge. I'm grateful and sorry for being a little late to this webinar. My question is, how do we find our power animals? Oh, well, the best way to find out who your power animal is to visit somebody who has, some knowledge and experience in shamanism and have them do a very brief journey. It really usually only takes about 10 minutes at the most to help you identify who is the power animal who is around you and why are they around you and how can you connect with them on an ongoing basis in order to embrace their power and their energy in your life. I mean, you have power animals around you without a doubt. It's a matter of coming to know who they are. So, you can contact me or another shamanic practitioner who you might know and ask them to help you with that. Really, people learning how to help somebody identify their power animals is something that we learn really early on in the practice of shamanism. So anybody who has taken a course with me, even an introductory course, would learn and would know how to do that work. So, if I'm not available to do it, I can send you to some people who would be able to help you for sure. Or you could take the online course. That's the other possibility. The online course, which won't cost all that much, will teach you how to access your power animal. And, you don't necessarily have to ever, become a practitioner, but you would have that skill and you would be able to use it to help other people as well, which is a really wonderful gift to have. So I see lots of thank yous here. Well, thank you for showing up and being here. I really appreciate your presence. I love doing this work. I look forward to perhaps some of you being online and doing some of these online courses with us in the future. And as I said earlier, I am going to do some more webinars. I need a little breather. I'm moving into a very, very busy teaching schedule in September, teaching face-to-face with students. But October, hopefully, we will have another webinar on some topic that my helping spirits will give me because, I don't know that I've said this along the way, but I don't choose these topics. My helping spirits are the ones that come knocking on my door and tell me, you need to teach this, you need to do that, you need to do this. So I'm just open to my helping spirits giving me whatever is next, and I'll look forward to sharing it with you. We are, I think, going to hang up here. We've spent, my goodness, almost exactly 2 hours, and I thank you so much for being here. And please know you can also always email me if you have a question about this presentation, if there's something that we didn't cover here and you are shy about asking about. I do my best to answer emails, but believe it or not, I get about 100 emails a day, so I try my absolute best to answer them within 24 hours, but it doesn't always happen that way. But, generally you'd hear from me within a couple days, unless I'm away. Oh, yeah, and Carrie is reminding me here that the recording of this webinar will be available to you within the next 24 hours. You'll get it in your email box, and then you can listen to it again and watch the slideshow again and be reminded of anything that I have shared with you here. So be well. Have a wonderful weekend. We're going into, here in the United States, we're going into a nice long weekend, the end of what we call summer, even though it really isn't the end of summer. And I wish you all well and a merry weekend. Bye-bye for now.